Young ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all or good evening. Once again, welcome here to your platform. Much loved, the platform for awakening consciousness. So this is the headline news on the African continent. Ukraine has been caught red-handed, caught in the act, regarding the activities of terro in the Sahel, more precisely in Niger. And you know, some time ago, Ukraine itself claimed to have participated alongside the insurgents who sent a good number of our Malian soldiers to the north of Mali in Tenzawatin. Ukraine had claimed, and to have had good results on that front. At the time, Ukraine had said it was fighting against Russia on African soil. The Ukrainian ambassador, residing in Dakar, had come forward to commend the work, the fine work that had been accomplished in Tenzawatin, in the north of Mali, and had promised that more results would follow. But what happened in Tenzawatin are acts that have come to send civilians and military personnel to their eternal rest. And since then, Ukraine has pretended not to be officially associated with terrorist activities in Africa. But what has just happened in Niger proves sufficiently that Ukraine is one of the masterminds behind terrorist activities. In Africa, and more specifically in West Africa, precisely in the Sahel. The discovery made in Niger left everyone astonished. On the battlefield, positions occupied by the terrorists were observed. Weapons were collected that these terrorists left behind as they went to their eternal rest. It was observed that these are weapons provided to them by Ukraine. So, you can easily understand why Europe does not want the conflict to end in Ukraine. And faced with this situation, one wonders, will the conflict really end in Ukraine? Since the new form of colonization of Africa is to send terrorist activities. As long as the terrorists are there, it allows them to exploit our minerals without much effort. The worst part is that it is our own brothers who take them to send them to us, as if they were mercenaries, and they are the ones who arm them. Let's first go with what happened in Niger, and after the break, we will return to analyze this news. I simply ask you to follow this video conference until the end. But already it needs to be shared as much as possible in all possible groups. Give it a lot of likes. Don't forget, the most important thing is to leave a comment. Yes, even if it's just hi, you should say hello. So, according to the official information, terrorists are using mortars of Ukrainian manufacture to shell positions of the regular army. Terrorists are using mortars of Ukrainian manufacture to shell positions of the regular army. According to a local publication, Le Journal du Niger, these are mortars M70 Molotov found at the fighters' positions. This equipment was accompanied by instructions in Ukrainian. Earlier, the Nigerian Ministry of the Interior indicated that the 44 mortar shells that had been the 44 mortar shells. Yes, no, the ministry had indicated that the mortar shells had sent 44 civilians to eternal rest in the southwest of the country. They send the civilians to rest, eternal. When I said rest, eternal, understand it easily. Yes, half of them, he sends them to eternal rest. But the observation that was made about their position, they have been found because there is pressure on them. The regular Nigerian army is chasing them to their last stronghold. So, at some point, they are forced to leave their position. And when they leave their position, we find Ukrainian-made mortars that they use to bomb the positions of the regular army. Several questions arise. First question, how do they manage to get hold of Ukrainian-made weapons that are still in service while Ukraine is in serious need of weapons and keeps asking for more? How do they do it if they don't have an agreement with Ukraine, if Ukraine is not their sponsor? Then it already proves that Ukraine is heavily involved. And what I was saying today, whether Africans like it or not, the new form of colonization is the infiltration of terro into our various territories. This is the new form of colonial penetration. They send you terro that terrorize you, that confuse you. You are concerned about your survival. While you are anxious, worried about your survival, they are busy extracting minerals as they please. This is how they operate. Their wish is not to see a single African country at peace, especially when that country is rich. They do not want that. They know that the insurgents will not be able to overthrow the regime. The insurgents cannot overthrow the regime, but just destabilize our different countries. When our countries are destabilized, they are comfortable because you will think or talk about development. It's when you know you have peace, you have stability. And I say it, all Africans must listen to this. They do not want us to develop. They always want us to say that it is them, the Europeans, who are the great nations. So, when you see today, regarding the issue of ending the conflict in Ukraine, Donald Trump is making an effort. Yes, indeed, he's making an effort. But Europe is adamant. The United Kingdom is adamant. The conflict must continue. They want the conflict to continue. So they send weapons to Ukraine, the weapons that Ukraine manufactures itself, and the weapons that Ukraine receives are transferred to the African continent. Have you asked yourself the question, where are all these weapons going? Why at every moment Ukraine says it's over? Is it really over? But Russia doesn't recover everything. What Russia most often recovers are the tanks, the armored vehicles, at least those with significant value. But not the weapons. The small mortars, no. But have Africans ask themselves the question, where are all these weapons going? All these weapons are being distributed in Africa. And here is one of the pieces of evidence that Niger has just discovered. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was the headline of international news. Thank you for sharing it as much as possible. I will be back shortly, by the grace of God the Almighty, with new updates. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.